I'm Cassandra Swanson. I'm coming to you from Paramount Property Management. I'm the president here, and we are located in Meridian, Idaho. I am talking to you today while I have a cup of coffee, just a quick impromptu. Hopefully you have your cup of coffee too, so we can get through the rest of the week. What I wanted to talk about today is how to determine the value of property managements, looking at their rates, what they charge, figuring out the actual cost of them so you can compare and find the right property management company. Paramount's been in business for just over 13 years here in the Treasure Valley. And we've kind of seen fads come and go. We've watched the market go up and fall. So we've been through it. And one of our goals as a member of NARPM, which is the National Association of Residential Property Managers, is to see the industry as a whole improve in our state, help our investment owners and our tenants, and not just be in business for a profit. We really want to see this grow. We love this community and we want to be a part of it. So today we're going to talk about the cost of property management, some of the pop-ups with the 5%, and seeing if this is the right choice for you, or how to hire a property manager and look at what their fee structure and costs really are. So let's get into it and see how this works out. What you will find is, as you are searching for them, average cost here in the Treasure Valley, you're going to look anywhere for management fees between 7 and 12% for a single family home. You'll see there's variance if it's going to be an Airbnb management, a vacation rental, if it's a duplex, and how many homes you have, you're going to see those rates fluctuate. You're going to see per item charges for some company. And you're also going to see a lot of marketing. The way to get people in sometimes in high numbers is to just go low. So you will see some flat fee or 5% companies popping up. And if they're lower than the average, it's just time to step back and say why. We want to check what this difference is in the service. You want to know if there's added risk in going with the low cost, why all companies aren't dropping it to such a low rate if it's something that can be done. And what does this mean? What does it change for the investment owner or the tenant, and ultimately for your property? Because we know when you invest in a property, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that need to be taken care of. So, for example, to look at this and run kind of our figures on it, we're going to look at this example property. So this is a Boise rental. The rent on it currently, we're going to say about $1,400 a month. You'll see this isn't a super luxury home. It's a normal, average home that you'll find in the Treasure Valley as a rental. You'll see that the company 1 and company 2, we're going to say that the rent was determined by the owner, and they're both renting it for the same amount each month, just so that we can be straightforward in these costs. You can argue that a company with more experience or access to more internet marketing could have a higher rate because they'll reach a broader audience. That's going to get kind of muddy. So let's just move forward and say $1,400 is the rent amount for both. Under a management fee of 5%, that's going to be a cost of $70 a month. Under a management fee of 7.9, so we can average it. We're going to look at a cost of $110.60 a month. So this is what the owner would receive each month. The projected payout would be $1,300 with the 5% property management, and it would be $1,289.40 a month with company 2. So this would be just a no-brainer. If you wanted more bang for your buck, you'd go for the 5% and save some money. But we are going to look at what the other issues are that come up with this. We're going to talk about our risk factors. So application fees. When you are looking for a property manager, I highly recommend that you look at what their application fee costs. A lot of owners don't, because it's not a cost that's going to come out of their pocket, but it does. It actually, in many cases, is going to come out of your pocket in vacancy time more to you in cost than if you actually paid for each application for each applicant. So if an application fee for $50 is what you're going to run into with some of the lower cost managers, the reason is if a company were to run at a 5% fee and that was their income, it's not enough to even break even on a property each month. And that means the income to run staff and the insurance and everything that you need to do to run this type of business, you got to get that money from another revenue stream. So it may come in the application fees as one point. So a company like ours, we actually don't get any profits from an application fee. Those are straight income in, expense out. The time, everything it's allocated for, there's no profit margin on it. So our application fees are $35. An application fee for some of the other companies with the lower, you're going to see is $50. What this means is in a application market where people are applying at multiple properties, they aren't going to necessarily apply for the ones that have higher application fees. They have a higher risk of it not getting approved and being out that money and having to go to another company. And so you will see less applications based on the fee. And it doesn't mean it's not a good applicant. It means they're risk conscious of spending their moving money ahead of time. What this means to owners is it translates into extra vacancy time. So you're looking at $700 on this property if you have 2 extra weeks vacancy. The next thing is the tenant moves in and they don't move the bills into their name. A lot of the lower cost companies say, we aren't going to manage your utilities. You can manage your own utilities. We make sure the tenant pays rent, and that's how we keep our prices low. Well, if that happens, it's going to be up to the owner to pay those bills initially, determine the right cutoff date, make sure they're communicating with the property manager that the utilities weren't moved over in their name. So a company 2, when that operates under best practices, you're going to see that they handle the utility bills so they can make sure it's moved over the correct time. That companies like City of Cuna will not allow them to put it in tenants' names, so they'll make sure they're getting the bill and the tenants are reimbursing. So that's a $0 cost to the owner. Whereas the other one, we're looking at $150 in ironing that out in owner's time spent on the utilities and any miscellaneous days where it was left unpaid after the tenant moved in. So the next thing we've got is the inspections. Best practices, and what we like to do is when we have a vacant property, we're going in, we're taking pictures prior to any tenant being in there to say, this is the condition, this is this outlet, this is his wall, this is where the holes are, here's where the problems are. We are looking for anything that is less than perfect in the home, and also documenting the whole room so that if a tenant comes back and says, oh, we got this hole in the store when we moved in, you've got a picture saying, actually, that hole wasn't there at that time. That must have been damaged at move-in, and that would be a tenant cost. So the average cost, if you're not doing something like this, means you're going to recoup more owner costs. You're going to have to repair screens or scratches or things that were caused by the tenant but can't be documented because 5% again isn't enough to go in and do that inspection and have it all documented correctly with the time that it takes. Those type of inspections end up taking anywhere from 2 to 5 hours of staff time to get everything set up in the system. So it's going to cost the owner about $250 in repairs during the tenancy or by move out just for the items that were missed. All right, the next thing in managing it is what is going on with the vendors and the maintenance. So a company that oftentimes is able to charge a very low rate, the rule is you have to use their maintenance company first, and they're going to go out and they're going to do their work. So you will find if you contract for repairs in the Treasure Valley, you're going to find everything from the lowest I've ever found is a discounted rate for property managers at $35 an hour. And the highest I've seen is $95 an hour for basic handyman repair. You are going to be required to have someone that has background check because you don't want the risk of putting your tenants at risk. And you're also going to have someone that has their own workman's comp insurance, or else the owner can be held accountable for accidents on their property. So if a company does do their in-house maintenance and they require you to use that instead of another vendor, you're looking at a cost of about $55 an hour on average. And property managers that have been in the industry do have access to repair vendors at a lower rate with the items, the insurance, and the background checks that are needed to keep you safe on the liabilities. Also, when we go and do an inspection on a property and are checking its condition, our mindset is, how do we keep this investment in good condition so it continues to have a good return on investment for the owner. We want to make sure the tenants are happy, and we want to make sure the repairs are worthwhile repairs and not flimsy or something that should be deferred until there's a good portion so that hourly rate makes sense. Like we would not send a vendor out to fix one broken light switch. If it's causing no danger to anyone, we would wait until there was a faucet and the light switch to save the owner money. If there's an incentive to perform the repairs in-house, that's how they make their bottom line, make sure they stay in the black as the company in the financial area, and there's going to be incentive for them to perform more repairs at the property. So also the cost to a company for doing regular exterior inspections, to double check the inspections for a lease violation after the fact. Every time they drive out to your property, that company is spending money. And so you'll see a lot of times with the lower cost ones, they're not checking up on the property on a regular basis and doing the drive-by. They're not necessarily doing extra inspections. Our owners, some of the examples that we contract for: pet inspections, annual inspections, follow-up inspections, past lease violations, and also pre-renewal. Those all are part of our management contract. So a lot of times the 5%, those will be an added charge if you want additional inspections, or they don't do the exterior ones to save their costs. They pass that savings on to the owner. I can't tell you how helpful and important it is just to have someone to have eyes on your property on a regular basis, because the first warning signs of anything about to go wrong, you're going to see on the exterior. So what this means is your repair costs go up with company one. So you're looking at annual costs of repairs. These are not HVAC. These are not plumbing. This is looking at handyman repairs for things in the property that have broken and a repairman can fix. We're looking at $16.49 on average for a 5% company, and the average cost for a company who's not using it as a baseline owned revenue is going to be about $8.26. Okay, on to the next part. So a lot of times when a property management company is able to charge a really low percentage rate, it is because it is not a main business. It's a part-time or side business. So at our company, our goal is to be a company that has expertise and is assisting our investment owners. We're investment property experts. Our summer months are when we do our leases and our marketing. It's when we want things to move fast. Our whole goal is to make sure your rental investments are bringing you the correct return and are building your investment goals for you. With a 5%, although the goal might still be there, if they are also a real estate firm, you're going to have situations where if the staffing isn't high enough, a sale of a home is going to be a larger income and a larger priority and have more timeliness than a lease renewal or summer months or lease showings. So what that can lead to is longer vacancy time. Summer months are busy for sales. They're also very busy months for lease renewals. Because there's more vacancy, companies that don't charge a vacancy rate or only are pulling in a profit once it rents, they will make the same amount if they wait 2 weeks to do a showing or if they show it today. So if they have a real estate deal on the table, that's going to take precedence because it's not going to impact what they get, just a little bit on when. The problem with this is it can lead to added vacancy time if their staffing does not go up in the summer months. So if it increases by 2.5 weeks, that's $3,500 out of a $1,400 property in added vacancy time. Now, when I say this is on average. These are things that I've witnessed in the Valley. There are currently 2 or 3 companies that offer this rate and who have a model like this. This isn't saying that they're bad. They're not saying that these things will change. This is just the reality of how some of those things break down. When summertime comes, if they don't have the right processes to streamline everything and make sure everybody's getting the right attention, it just can cost more in vacancy. That's where you're going to find it causes a problem. All right, so 5% is that company one. Typically, they make sure tenants have rental insurance. They typically are newer companies, so on average about 36 months of experience. They've attended a few court cases. They're getting their bearings. They're learning the industry. In Idaho, you do not need to have a real estate license. You do not need to have any training in particular to be a property manager. The Attorney General's office recommends that you have at least a business degree and that you set things up a certain way. But there's not the large barriers to entry that you would find in other states. And what this means is you really want to find that your companies that you're hiring have taken steps to find accountability and to show that they know what they're doing, not just self-indicated, but on a national or an education level. The best way to do this is to look for a company that is a member of NARPM or who has NARPM designations. So NARPM, again, is the National Association of Residential Property Managers. They have best practices. They have a rule of ethics that they hold all members to. If you have problems with them, you can report them to NARPM if you believe they've done something that falls short of those standards. And they also provide education. Their goal is to improve it on a national level. So you're going to look for property managers and staff that have designations, such as residential management professional. NPM is also a designation, and you'll see CSS, all of those that have to do with NARPM. Luckily, there is a NARPM logo that goes on the website, goes on business cards that you'll be able to look for if this accountability and training is something that you would like to have with your company. Also, their leases are going to be newer leases. They're going to be legally valid, but they might be templates that came from a national legal chain or from a source where they've drafted it. When you have a company that's been in business longer, leases change as laws in the community change. So a company that's aware and proactive in legislation for you as an owner in the investment area is important in a company. So, for example, a company two, one that look for a NARPM member, look for extra education, designations, something showing that they have experience. So our company, we've had over 156 months of experience in managing rentals, and that's only one individual. If you added up all of the staff and the experience, it starts to get astronomically higher. We've attended numerous court cases. We know how different judges rule. We know how they look at the different lease terms. We know what's going on in the different counties in Idaho, what rulings are changing, how collection laws work, what to expect in eviction cases, small claims cases, when to go after tenants, when it's better to settle. We can offer that assistance. Not to mention we have great attorneys that work with us on a regular basis. And that can be something overwhelming for an owner who hasn't gone through that before, because you're going to want to lean on your property management company to tell you the next steps and what to expect and what will happen and what it's going to cost. If it's a smaller startup, they're going to worry about growth. The priority one will be onboarding. A company that's been around is not necessarily focused on growth. It's a misnomer that all businesses want to grow. Growth is fine, but it's more important that your company know what their unit to employee ratio is. How many doors do they take on for staff? When is it too much? When is it too little? If they know their metrics of how to go up and down in the community with it, they're fine. They know how to make it right. If it's a company that's new and they're focused on growth and bringing things in, you're going to find that anything outside of the regular processes is going to be more of a challenge once you're onboarded. Also, the leases at a company that's been around, those are changed based on laws that change, based on how judges rule in courts, based on how they're interpreted under a court of law and how the judges look at it. We can tell you in our company, for example, there's no one judge in Canyon County or Ada County that has ever allowed a charge for replacement of mini blinds at a property if they were over 2 years old. It just, you can't charge the tenant for it. But that's something you need to know before you go to a court case rather than at the court case. So here are the risks. in businesses. Now, these you can find online. This is done by a national study looking at business startups. It's not just encompassing property managers. So when you're looking at companies, there is a risk factor in doing business with them. And normally, the thought process is, I really hope they make it. If they don't, it's not a problem for me, except for in property management. There is a risk. They hold the security deposits, they pull in the rent payments. There have been some cases of 5% management companies in other states similar to Idaho, such as Florida, where the owners have reported not receiving rents, not receiving the money on time, not getting their security deposits. Now, 5% is a great deal until you realize you aren't getting the rents, until you're not getting security deposits, at which point the percentage changes to no longer being 5%. You're now paying them more than 100%, including the deposit costs. The property management company goes away and they haven't closed it out correctly, or they're unable to meet their obligations, the security deposit falls on the owner to give to the tenant. So the first year in business, 79% of businesses make it. This drops to 69% on average. For the second year, only half of them are going to survive by 5 years. And by 10 years, 33% of businesses are still in business. There's so many external factors that go into that. That's what the right column is. These are all the areas that businesses have reported they failed. The problem is when your property management company fails, it tends to drag you down with it and is an expense for you as well. Because of this, you need to ask when you're interviewing property managers, do they carry liability insurance? Not on your property. It's your job to insure your property, but do they carry liability insurance on their business? Are they bonded? What happens in case something goes wrong? If they don't have the right insurance and they don't have bonding in place, you potentially shoulder that burden should something go wrong. Businesses over 10 years have a stronger track record, and you've got a lower risk of something like that happening. If you are going with a new one, nothing wrong with new companies. Everyone starts somewhere. Just be aware that you may be involved in that learning curve, and that's kind of where you're getting some of your discount as well. You're going to pay for expertise. You're going to pay for someone that can help save you money and know how to accomplish things quickly and correctly. And sometimes you're not going to get that from a company that's just starting out or learning some of the more complex areas of it. So there's the risk factor. So what does this mean? I've thrown tons of numbers at you. I've spoken very quickly to try and recap all of the stuff you need to consider with a property management company when you go to hire them. Let's look at how the cost turned out for each company and see if 5% still fits or if you want a more traditional structured property management fee. So we're looking at the anticipated $1,330 a month given to the owner. The reason we took this at 2 years is because we considered vacancy from the beginning, and we also considered the average lease being a year and what would happen during a vacancy in summer. So we were taking 2 years, and then we'll break that down. So 2 years, that's going to be $31,920, and 2 years with the company 2, that is not a 5% company, at the 7.9, is going to be $30,945.60. So when you look at those numbers, it's about $1,000 difference over 2 years. So it's just under $500 a year difference. Still seems like $500 is a good deal. You could put that towards something else. However, your extra vacancy time in the first year is $700. That alone makes up for the difference in the management fee. In a fast market, we had vacancy rates of 0 this summer for many properties, where we showed them the person moved out, a person moved in, on properties that were kept clean, and we scheduled it just right. 1 day vacancy. It didn't sit on the market as vacant at all. They were ready to go. Summers like that are just wonderful. As you get into the winter months, you're looking at an average vacancy of about 3 weeks right now for a correctly priced home. And that's pretty typical here in Idaho. If you want to, the worst time to have your property available is between Thanksgiving and New Year. It can be done. We've got the ways, but just know that's when it's going to increase. And it's going to be even longer for a company that doesn't have the skill set yet for marketing properties in the winter months. We have the utility transfer cost of $150. We've got the move out inspection discrepancies based on the difference in inspections that came $250. We had repairs for 2 years. You'll see came to $32.98. This is saying no major ones. These are just, handyman repairs, fixing things as they break. Repair for 2 years with company with the standard rate, $16.52. So added vacancy in the second year. So this is the one we talked about where it was in the summer month, and so added 2.5 weeks of vacancy. And so our total income per year with the 5% management company, factoring in these differences, came to $12,011. And so that's 1 year. And the total income per year for company 2 averaged out at $14,646.80. So even though company 2 cost more money, their management fee was much higher, you are seeing that you're still getting more money, more return on your investment by going with the expertise and the people and systems that have been in place for years. You'll be with company 1, the 5% seems like a much better deal, saving $500 a year, but in the end, it ended up costing the property owner more. You have to do what's right for you. These are easy questions to ask and to figure out when you hire a property manager. Ask them how their inspections work, what their application fee is. Do they have the liability insurance? How do they find their handymen? Do they have a team? What's the average cost of those repairs? They'll be able to go through and answer your questions and let you know how their processes work. So let's come back to our coffee. So when we look at cheap management services, they have to make up for the lost profit from another area. They have to have another stream in order to carry a company at 5%. And this means you're not necessarily hiring them to be the property manager. You're hiring them, and then they're also doing the repairs or the application stream. Their other income to keep them afloat is going to come somewhere else. That can be repairs, that can be inspections, it can be property monitoring. There can be add-on charges that you're not aware of. It's so easy to look at one company and say, management fee here, management fee here. There, I'm done. I'm going to go with the lower one. But there's a lot more that goes into the cost than just the management fee. When you break the management fees down per month, in this scenario, the 5% agreement versus the 7.9% agreement came down to $1.34 a day in a difference in management fees. That is less than a cup of coffee like we are having this morning. So I get this every day. This one is $2.26. Energy drink is $1.99. So you're actually paying an average of $2,635.80 more per year to the property management company that's only charging 5% based on your other fees and the other expenses. And that does not include if something goes wrong and the major liability risk or court cases or insurance. This isn't a perfect situation. So just something to think about when you're hiring a property manager, and when you see that 5% pop up and you think, is this too good to be true? In our market, it is. It's been proven many times. It's a rate like that is below what a break-even point is on a property. And so if you're looking at metrics like that, you've got to know where's the other money coming from and where are the priorities placed. So if you have any questions on this, feel free to give me a call. You don't have to be a current owner or a current property investor or a tenant to talk to us. We're more than happy to talk to you and help. If you're currently in the market and you do it yourself, you're welcome to use the resources on our website. If you go to www.paramountpm.com, the first page will ask if you would like to get a rental analysis. You will fill out the property address that you're doing, enter your name, email, and information. We're not going to call and harass you, no worries, only if you want us to, but it's going to produce a 5-page report for you on current rental rates, what they're like in the zip code, what they look like for Section 8 housing, what they look like for duplexes and single families, and that will help you, if you manage your own, decide what the right rental market rate value is for you. And that's free. Again, as we said, our goal is to improve this industry for our state, make sure our investors have a good return on investment, and we want to make sure you're making the right choices for you. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Go out and get coffee. And if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you so much.